Bisshhh, 'tis I, Chlois, aka Bish on Instagram. So today I am not going to be talking a lot about what I am doing. It is going to strictly be my story and education on diabetes. So if you want a tutorial on what I am doing or another video, leave a comment down below and I will do that. Anywho, let's get started. So, November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and specifically November 14th is the specific day for the awareness. Now, this rings really close to home for me, and my sister's story actually has a lot to do with my personal story. So, in February of 2004, my sister was finishing her junior year of high school and she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. She had been falling asleep in class, was very tired all the time, brought it up to her doctor. They tested her, diagnosed her with type 2 diabetes. My mom went and got a book, Diabetes for Dummies, and had been reading on it and everything, trying to get more education to help my sister out. And my sister is 12 years older than I am. So she was a junior. She was 17, going to be 18 that September. So her 18th birthday passes, and I turned 6 in June. I was 6.5 when I was diagnosed. It was a December, and all throughout the year, so I was 6.5, I was potty trained, fully potty trained. I had been wetting the bed more often, and at the time, me, my sister, and my mom all lived in a 1-bedroom trailer, and so we all slept in my mom's king-size bed. We all shared a bedroom. Now, it was weird that I was wetting the bed because, again, I was fully potty trained, but I was wetting the bed at night, and my mom found it just really strange and weird because I hadn't done it prior to that situation. It was like 6 to 8 months that it had been going on. And she also paid attention to the fact that I was drinking a lot more. I was way more thirsty than usual, drinking everything, and I also was going to the bathroom more frequently. Normally, at that age, she told me that I could go to the bathroom like once in the morning and be good the entire day. But I started needing to go to the bathroom more often. So, my sister had type 2 diabetes. She had been reading this book, Diabetes for Dummies, and had noticed some of the symptoms matched mine. So she took my sister's meter, her glucometer, aka meter with non-medical words, and checked my sugar, and my sugar was 200 and something, which is high to what it's supposed to be for a normal pancreas working person. So she took me to the doctor right away, and they diagnosed me with type 1 diabetes. They gave my mom an hour to get me to a hospital that was 2 hours away. Otherwise, the room they were saving for me would be given to somebody else. So my mom went home, packed our bags, flew us down to this hospital. It's the state hospital that has a specific children's ward on it. And I was in the hospital for a week, and they diagnosed me with type 1 diabetes. So, my story starts there with the hospital. I was there for a week. They had an IV in my hand, my arm. I was taking insulin shots, and of course I was 6.5, crying the whole time because I did not like shots. And yeah, that was a pretty intense, crazy week for me. And after that, I realized that was going to be my life from then on. We got home, and about a week after being diagnosed, I finally sucked it up and I told my mom, I want to be the one to do it. I want to be the one to give myself shots. I want to be the one to draw up my own insulin. I want to do it all. So I started. My mom showed me what I needed to do. I picked it up crazy fast, just like that, and I did it. I did not want to be dependent on anybody else to try and help me unless I absolutely needed it. And so that started my journey at 6.5, and here we are 17 years later. Wow, yeah. 17 years later almost. In December 17th, it will be 17 years that I have had diabetes. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I have been in and out of the hospital several times. Thankfully, none very recent. I haven't been in the hospital for my diabetes in 5 or 6 years now. Maybe even longer. I'm not entirely sure. That's how long it's been. I've had some very scary incidences where I've fainted at school from low blood sugar and have had to been carried to the nurse's office in elementary school. I was very, very sick in middle school. My sugar got so high, I went home early from school one day. The next day, I stayed home throwing up so bad, and our little office situation that we had was right next to my bathroom. So instead of crawling all the way back to bed to just go back to the toilet and throw up later on, I stayed in our office at a desk since it was right there next to the bathroom and closest to the toilet, and I fell unconscious there. My mom went and checked on me. I was laid out at the desk with my head on the desk, asleep. She could not wake me up. She calls my nanny, and my nanny goes over. My nanny is my mom's mom, so my grandma. My nanny goes over to help my mom with me. My mom's getting me dressed, and she's like freaking out because I'm not responding. I'm not conscious. She's called the ER, but from where we lived, it would be faster for my mom to just take me to the ER than to have an ambulance drive out and then drive back to get me to the ER. So my mom rushes me to the ER. I'm still unconscious. I'm not even entirely sure how long I stayed unconscious. I think it was maybe a couple of hours. Not crazy long, but still long enough to scare my mom and my family. I remember waking up, and when your sugar gets high, your blood sugar, so your glucose, when your blood sugar gets high, you become so thirsty. Like your mouth just feels like sandpaper. You get so thirsty that you can't even talk. You can't create saliva. You can't talk. You can't do anything. So I remember waking up in the hospital and I couldn't even talk. I opened my eyes and the first thing I could do was take my fingers in the YOLO sign and motion to my mouth I need a drink. And they got me water. That was the only way that my mouth could get wet enough for me to even talk, was through water, because my sugar was just so high, I couldn't produce spit or saliva. So that was a very bad situation. I went to the hospital. They flew me. They air vac'd me to the state hospital again. And I stayed there for 3 or 4 days, I believe. But just a very scary situation for my whole family. So I have done a lot better, been on top of everything. I now have a Dexcom, which is a sensor that goes into your skin and stays there for 10 days to regularly check your blood sugar and monitor it. And I am still on insulin. So, yes, living with that currently. Now, education-wise, a lot of people, when they hear diabetes, they just say, whether you're type 1 or type 2, oh, so-and-so I know has diabetes, so-and-so I know has diabetes. Okay, but do they have the same kind of diabetes? Because they are different. Type 1 in particular is usually, they call it juvenile diabetes, because 9 times out of 10, when you are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, you are a juvenile. You're under 18, considered a child still when you're diagnosed with type 1. Also, type 1, you have the receptors in your pancreas to receive the insulin, but your body does not produce the insulin. Hence why you need insulin injections, so that you're using artificial insulin to get into your body. Type 2 diabetes is where you have your body produces the insulin, but your receptors don't work, which is why you take pills. And usually with pills, you can get it under control, or even a lot of times it's if you're overweight or just not eating healthy, inactive, you can be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which is why they say with good diet and good exercise, you can be removed off of medicine and not need to take pills or anything. Now, with that though, with type 2, if you get too severe into type 2 and aren't taking care of yourself or your health, you can become insulin dependent. You could need to be on both insulin and pills with type 2 if you're not taking good enough care or paying attention, or it's just too far gone. It can lead or just initiate with that. But again, usually there is the possibility of being able to get off medicine altogether with good diet, good exercise, just general good health and well-being. With type 1, they pretty much beat it into your brain that you will never be off of insulin ever in your life, that you cannot get rid of it. It's just a permanent situation. It is what it is. Now with type 1, 2 though, you have, I don't want to say more freedom, because you do still need to be very cautious and very aware of what you are taking in, like carb-wise and everything, and also be aware of your exercise. But you have a little bit more freedom in the sense that you can take insulin, you can carb count and take insulin based on what you are eating in that exact amount. So when you go to the doctor, they'll usually tell you can have 10 carbs or take 1 unit of insulin per 10 carbs. So if I had an apple, that's considered 30 carbs at a general basis. So I would take 3 units of insulin. So you do got to know math for having diabetes. But also, you just still want to be cautious. Now, symptoms for both type 1 and type 2 are similar. Symptoms, and these are things you should discuss with your doctor if you are experiencing high amounts of this. Symptoms would be feeling faint, dizzy, lightheaded, shaky. Those are all signs of a low blood sugar. High blood sugar is frequent or uncontrollable thirst, frequent urination, throwing up aggressively, and I want to say with your sugar being low too, it's almost like you're drunk. You can't walk or talk or comprehend things in the right mind, but you're not drunk. It just seems like you are to others. So those are things you want to keep an eye out on. And headaches come with high blood sugar and low blood sugar. Vision blurriness. Like things that you might think are just like everyday, oh, I'm not feeling well, could potentially be signs of diabetes. So just be very, very cautious. Look into your family history. Does anybody else in your family have type 2 or type 1? They both are and can be passed down through genetics. So please, please, please just take those into consideration and beware if like your sons, daughters, brothers, sisters are complaining about certain things and they've been complaining about them. It's not just like a once every 3 to 6 months. It's like several times a month or a week or whatever. Maybe raise your concern and ask questions. Start a list of symptoms and maybe check them off, whatever. Keep track. So that way, if it does come too crazy and you go to a doctor, you can tell them, look, these are what I'm experiencing, and I know that these can be related to type 1 or type 2 diabetes. So that way they can test you. And that is, really all I can say about it in both, my story and in the education that I am aware of and know for fact and things like that. It can be very, very scary. You can lose your life to diabetes. You can lose limbs to diabetes. If you aren't taking care of your blood sugar or your health in return to managing your blood sugar, your circulation goes bad and you can lose limbs. Just be cautious. That's all I can say. So November and diabetes awareness really does hit home with me in this sense. And so I just ask you guys to take this, and I hope that you learned something from it and now know more about me. And so blue and gray are the colors for diabetes awareness. I did blue and sparkles from silver. And the red is to represent the blood from the drop of blood that we have to use to check our sugars. So that would be the red mark in the ribbon and the red stripe down my center index finger. So thanks for listening, you guys. I hope you have a good one. Bye, bitches.